Hello and welcome to the 5-0 Podcast, your number one podcast for the Smash CPU Ultimate Draft League. I am MaxSchersey, and I am not joined by Mike this week. He has some shit going on tonight, but he's still doing the editing for this one. So hopefully you enjoy it when you're listening through, Mike. And for everyone else, we're opening up this regular season with a solo recording, people. It was definitely an eventful week, and personally, I forgot just how much I miss this stuff, man. I love UDL. It's so bullshit. It's so unfair. But that's why it feels great when you win, man. That's what it's all about. All right. I don't want to waste everyone's time, so let's just jump right in. It is time for your weekly match recap. Cue the music. In the main event of Week 1, it was Moneyball versus Funnyball as VivTech and his front office algorithm took on the salary cap hoarder Soul. This was an ugly one, guys. Soul is legitimately an 0-12 watch until he makes some moves. Truck Mud is starting to make that 0-5 stretch last year look like the outlier as she wins over Mike 8-3. Crom is an absolute war criminal in Final Smash, and that's obvious. Week 1, Ridley does it again as well in singles. Wave gets his revenge against Bren for the pride of last year's Apple Division 7-5. He wins the Shulk Ditto in singles to start, and that proved to be the difference in this one. Theo pulls it out against Septo, 9-5, but it certainly felt closer than that. Pikachu pulled out the Gimp of a Lifetime on Big Battlefield against Cloud and Stamina, and that kind of just changed the course of the set. Gemini beats Giraffe in a close one, 7-7. Gemini's Kirby Meta Knight doubles team might be a problem, and Giraffe's Aegis might be a problem for the other reason. The Crimson Chimson looks to bounce back from his 2024 with a win over User to start the year. How about Meta Knight opening up the season with a 2-1 win over Ganondorf in singles? How about that? It's Mini Squix and it's Leo in the Pit Bowl, with Squix taking it 8-5. Ken Masters in doubles gets it done. Are you kidding me? Inkling was his partner. And Leo's famous Little Max starts 0-1 in singles this season. How about that, huh? Tribal K gets a win over JNP in the We Will Be Fit Bowl, 8-6. Both the Wii Fits actually end up losing in the Wii Fit Bowl, but it's Tribal's old standbys, DK and Falco, that help contribute to the win. Smet faces Ice and beats him 8-5. And this team, look out for this one, guys. That's all I'm saying. Sonic gets a 2-0 in Final Smash, and Pichu, correct me if you heard this one before, gets a 2-0 win in Stamina against the new hot pick Cloud. Ruh-roh. Look out for that guy. Your defending champion H-Kun takes on random lineup Bren, who gets a filler character in singles, and what did you think was going to happen? H-Kun wins 8-3. Weave takes on V in the Weeable 2 Revengeance Requiem. He gets his win 7-4. How about Weave Sora, man? That guy low-key has always been putting in work. Does again this week. Adrian unplugs the AV cord on Sunday, as this one was an 8-2 dismantling, and guess what? That too was in Squad Strike, so that doesn't even count. Pretty dominant performance by Adrian picking up the dub there. Akagi wins over Mr. Wiggles 8-4. How about Sheik getting a win in singles over K-Rool and Lucas over Wario? My goodness, people, how does that happen? Koichi gets a win over Bling 7-5. K-Rool and Pikachu, that's who you thought probably would be carrying Koichi, but it's actually those two that lost, and everyone else picked up the slack. Koichi's Ridley continues to be an absolute menace. Folks, we are on 8-7 watch as Corey 2016 tries to prove last year was not a fluke with this win over KJ. He took one game in squads with a filler character. Look out for that. That's an interesting little sub-storyline, you know. Can you actually win in squads when the filler character's in there? One game has been taken so far through 1 week. I shitted. Shits all over Jihu with an 8-3 win. Jihu's team, man, I'm gonna be honest, it looks really bad. Really, really bad. And to Uh-Oh's credit, he did his job and didn't lose. You know, beat him very, very soundly. Kamazat begins his 11-1 UDL sim run with an 6-5 win, over Krillin. This guy, Camazotz, he's got a top 3 of Captain Falcon in singles, Snake in Final Smash, and Simon in stamina. That's not too shabby, you know? You see the name Camazotz, you're like, huh? But, man, look out for that one. Tep takes it over base 7-5. His famous Bowser Falco team lost, but you already know that Dr. Mario won. And how about Duck Hunt in stamina? Should we get on that hype train again? I feel like we got excited and then everyone kind of, you know, stopped caring about that guy. I don't know. Parkour has another 8-7 watch win this week over Dusty. Piranha Plant and stamina actually gets a win. And Me Brawler returns to doubles for the first time in human history since MaxSchersey's Tifa Hogan in 2022 to contribute to the win. Early season Tungi is here as he wins over Corvette 6-4. Banjo and Final Smash, people forget that that guy is actually good. Gets a clean 2-0 over Captain Falcon as a part of his win. Gold DXJ may be a new man this year as he decisively beats me 9-4. Little Mac 2-0 in singles, and Zelda 2-0 in Final Smash, and then the rest of the team just did their job and held on. Omar Gosh goes on W Riz this week with an 8-5 win over Sickest. Lucario, Hero, and Aegis all win the first 3, and that's that. Holy moly. Well, I'll talk about teams we might have been underestimating. Jaguar has struggled last year. I wrote the past couple years, but that's actually not true. Those notes are bad. He struggled last year with teams that he was heavily favored over. But he says, not today, Satan. And he gets an 8-5 win over DeQuavius in week 1. That Sephiroth and Sonic team in doubles is looking pretty good. I do not want to face that one, but I'm going to have to later in the season. And finally, Coach Jade wins a close one over Orchid 6-6. Olimar gets a 2-0 over Snake in Final Smash. No, this is not a drill. Welcome back to UDL, everybody. And that's this week's matches in the Ultimate Draft League. Hope everyone enjoyed that recap. I'm looking at my timer, just at about 7.5 minutes after that. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I'm going to compliment myself on that one. Hopefully any information at all got conveyed during that segment. Definitely open to feedback, you know. Let me know in Discord or in the comment section when this goes on YouTube or DMs or whatever. Because definitely trying to refine this segment over the course of the season. Now let's move on to division talk. This is going to be more substantial later in the year when there's more to talk about with divisions. This is just week 1. But, you know, for now, I just wrote a few sentences. This is going to be a quick 8 segments to talk about, excuse me, to talk about our 8 divisions after week 1. Starting in the Vent division. After this first week of team showcases, I think it's hard to hate H-Kun, of course. We may have underestimated Smet last episode, if anything. I am totally sold on that team now. But this division in general might just be a bloodbath. Crimson looked good. Vivtech looked good, but he didn't have an opponent, so it's hard to say right now. And Giraffe and KJ came pretty damn close to winning as well. Keep an eye on the Vent division. That one might be a slaughterhouse by the time we get to week 6 and division play. It's going to be up and running. The Fish division, on the other hand, oh boy, it's Corey 2016 and Gemini tied for the lead right now. And all the preseason contenders took L's. I liked Gemini's team quite a lot, actually, which I talked about a little bit last week. I think there could be some pieces moved around here and there, but I can confirm that this is not a random lineup, and he's actually placing them. So he's certainly liable to switch it up as the season goes along. And my goodness, man, he just has an embarrassment of riches for depth options and counter pick potential on this team. Corey, I mean, whatever. I can't actually call him a division favorite. I just can't. You know, I just can't. The joke was funny last year. Maybe the jokes could be funny again this year. You know, who's to say it's not? But in good faith, I can't actually seriously say that. The Soup Division, your winners this week were Tribal, Koichi, Weeb, and Omar Gosh, so they are tied for the lead. Omar Gosh might legitimately be a good team. I was joking about that 9-3 thing at first, but maybe I shouldn't have been. If he rolls out this week's lineup against everyone, it's going to be hard for most teams to beat that. Yeah, this is another division that could definitely get pretty spicy. And then rounding out the B conference, we have the Baymax division. Akagi and Tep won from here this week, and it's hard not to think that Tep has a pretty clear path for back-to-back division championships. He kept the same name, brought a lot of his team back. You know, it's he's very much doing the run back. It's a Revengeance tour. Is that Revengeance or just Vengeance? Whatever. You know me. I don't know, man. Just picked up right where he left off last year. You know, seeing Doc get a win in the singles. That's just kind of how it should be, right? Akagi, we know what he is. Fringe wildcard team every year. I can't really get too excited about him yet. We'll see if that changes later on. And now open up the P conference. We have the True Division. Jaguar, Jade, and Mini Squicks pick up wins here. Last year was just really not good for Jaguar. Expectations were kind of sky high after 2022 and 2023. But, yeah, this week one made it seem like he was back, man. Just getting the best possible outcome out of everyone on his team somehow. If that's the case going forward and he is back, no one wants to face that team, and that is a fact. Nobody wants to face Jaguar. In the Pain division, it's I Shaded getting a win, along with two teams who everyone predicted would be in the hunt before the season, Gold DXJ and Adrian Cosmo. I'm going to toot my own horn and say I actually did project Adrian being a good team. Check last episode of the pod. So not a surprise to me. Gold, we'll have to see. His roster actually wasn't half bad last year, if everyone remembers. It's just he stopped putting in lineups for a while, and his team was built in such a way where, it wasn't built for being a random lineup. You know, he had a lot of guys that were only good in one mode, and then he was doing random lineups every week. But, definitely possible that he could be a real contender late into the season. So we'll have to see. In the Franklin division, we've got Wave, Theo, and Parkour picking up wins in week one. It's kind of weird to see a Wave team without Aegis on it after last year, but it could be very interesting. The ZSS experiment and Final Smash for him, it starts with an 0-2 loss, and Cloud loses to Bowser in Stamina. What's up with that, by the way? What's up with Cloud? More on him later, actually. But aside from that, if I look at this team, all I see are threats. It's so easy to mix and match everyone between modes, and that doubles teaming ran out in week one. Byleth, Sephiroth. Nobody wants to face that team. Nobody wants to face those guys. So I like it. And then let's close it out with the Waters division. Kamazats and Tungi got wins as well, but like I said in the recap, Truck Mud's team looks absolutely insane. There's reason to question if Ridley's going to keep being good because, Ridley does the same thing every year, right? Has these flashes of greatness, and then everyone gets excited and then just shits the bed the rest of the year. But even aside from that, there's just some strong aura radiating from this team, man. You can feel it just in week one. The power of Goth Evil Miku as that 10th member of the team that you're going to have to deal with. That's very powerful stuff. So with that being said, I'm definitely keeping an eye on Truck Mud personally. I think if you're a fan of this team, you're starting to get real excited as you can be after 1 week. But, is it UDL championship or bust, right? I mean, it was third place last year, if I remember right, third or fourth place. So, nowhere to go but up, I suppose. Definitely not true. A lot of room to go down. But if you're a fan, you got to go up after that. Okay, and that's it for divisions. Like I said, didn't have too much because it's just week one. However, did get a lot of viewer questions this week. Thank y'all very much for all of that. The input's awesome. So for the interest of time, I'm just gonna jump straight into the viewer questions. Okay, this first question was one that a couple people asked. I'm just going to read them off. I'm going to read off all variations of the same question. First, we had Crimson ask, now that week one is over, which character going into the start of the season did you think was going to pop off that is already showing signs of dropping down in stats? User asks, what were the biggest surprises of week one in your opinion? This can be characters that exceeded or fell short of your expectations or really anything else. And Koishi asks, are there any characters that surprise you in week one, good or bad? What about in your particular lineups? I'll answer that last one first. In my particular lineup, little disappointed with Ike's debut on the team, man. I remember Ike being an absolute menace whenever I was catching his matches last year. Really tough for my team to deal with in general, the way it was constructed. So I was pretty excited to get Ike on my team. Threw him out there in singles week one, and man, that guy just did not look good. That recovery is quite exploitable. Yeah, that matchup spread might be a little bit more polarizing than I give it credit for, to be honest with you. Which I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm doing with that. To answer the other general questions there, I think if you base your team around Cloud going into the draft, you have reason to be panicking right now. A lot of hype around Cloud in the offseason ended up rising to be a $5 pick, and one of the more popular ones as well, like one of the first ones to be off the board. I believe did not pick up a single win this week. That's tough, man. That's tough. This was supposed to be a top-tier contender in stamina, and we all know how valuable those are. I mean, El Riz, if we were still doing the Riz report this year, week one, that's not great. That's not great. I might be a little worried if I was in that position. It is just 1 week. I'm obviously not writing off the character yet, but that's a developing story for sure. We'll have to see what happens there. Next question is from Ice. He says, the characters who just popped up on our radar the last few months have been Cloud and Olimar. Who do you think is next? Try to think of someone who has not been relevant at all, but has the potential to do so. The example he gives, he says, I don't actually believe this, but an example would be Kazuya, who has done nothing since being nerfed to -2. So kind of similarly to the Kazuya example here, I said this last year too. I think that B Brawler has definitely got some juice in him. I think since getting that stamina nerf, everyone's been really over him in every other mode. But in 2022, and even like early in 2023, before everyone figured out to just put him in stamina, like that guy was not bad in the other modes. He is still buffed, and that dude is mad strong. He could cheese the fuck out of some guys and get some early kills. He's a real threat. Decent and neutral as well. Not saying he's a perfect character, obviously, but I feel like he's been disrespected to a weird degree that I just kind of don't understand. Honorable mention goes to Prada Play It. I don't know how he's $2. Honestly, I don't know how he's $2. I'm glad he's on my team. I just don't get it. This guy is absolutely unkillable in doubles and just gets random kills for no reason. I don't know. I think by the end of the year, we might put a little more respect on that guy's name. Adrian asks, what was the most surprising set outcome in week one? You know what? I thought about this one, and I kind of scrolled through all the results again before I started recording. I think it's got to be Omar Gosh winning over Sickest. Sickest is a team that the past couple years, the main thing you can say is that he's been consistent. Last year, I think he like dropped that one to Mr. Wiggles, but other than that, I can't really think of any like bad upset losses he's really had. He builds his teams to be very consistent and to shit on bad teams, and let's roll the dice against the good teams. That's how it is every year. Omar Gosh, in his UDL debut, pulls up against like a legit team and just beats him in the first three. That doesn't really happen, man. And like I said in the recap, he wins with Lucario singles, Hero and Final Smash, and Aegis and Stamina. Those are three very good characters. So maybe shouldn't have been surprising in hindsight, but maybe the surprising part is that Omar Gosh presumably isn't a random lineup if he got those three, right? I mean, maybe that was just the assumption that it's just going to be rolling the dice every week. But if that is the lineup, that really changes things. That really changes things. You got to actually prep for Omar Gosh. And he's on his way to a 9-3 season, and that's obvious. VivTech asks, how good do you think static versus random versus counter lineups will do in this meta? I think the worst teams this year, first of all, I think Soul's the worst team this year. But if we're taking Soul out of the picture, assuming that Soul doesn't trade or otherwise get better characters, the teams that have a filler character and they're also random lineups are not going to be good this season, folks. I would be absolutely shocked if any of those teams made the playoffs or were even seriously in contention in the last month of the year. The filler character seems about as close to an automatic loss as it gets right now. Like, very close. Again, there was, in squads, one team with a filler character was able to take one game, and that's all we got so far. Other than that, it's just been complete throwing, and to get a filler character not in squads is just, man, it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous and not in a good way. So they're out. They're out for sure. I think counterpicking is, there's probably more room for that than last year. I guess we'll see how this ages, but the way I think about it is, everyone doesn't just have 9 hitters on their team anymore. There is a weak spot. A lot of people are putting their weak ones in squad strike, of course, because it's kind of been found out that that's what you should do, and try not to get too cute about it. But still, most teams don't have 5 top threats in those first 4 modes. And if they don't, when we're talking just like mid-high tiers instead of top tiers that beat whatever, let's say 75%, 80% of the cast. I have no idea if those numbers are right, but you know what I mean. Lower that down a bit and open up a couple more counter picks if you're going with your high tiers, your mid tiers. Then all of a sudden, doesn't counterpicking become a lot more important? Doesn't covering the matchup spread become a lot more important when that's not just easily done by spamming top tiers everywhere? That's how I think about it. And that kind of answers both of those, because if you're static, then you're very open to getting counterpicked. That's always been the case. Giraffe asks, how does one go about solving an in-team dispute with a certain Aegis taking 2 of their own teammates' stocks and hitting them 10 plus times throughout the games, resulting in multiple near-death moments? I feel like there could be some animosity there. What would be the best solution to fix this? First of all, did you count 10 plus times that Aegis hit Piranha Plant? If so, that's awesome. If so, that's awesome. If you didn't, then I believe it just from watching that set. You know what? Giraffe premised this by saying that this would be a meme question. Is it okay to ask this? I have a very serious answer. Because, of course, Coach Izzy on the team last year for the St. Galli Merchants did have to deal with this type of situation very famously, where, we were looking to solve our own doubles problem of sorts. It started with Coach herself was supposed to be kind of a core part of this doubles team. That didn't really work out. We had Sora in there. Turns out Sora didn't really want to be a team player, so he had to go. We kept shuffling people in and out of doubles, trying to figure out, what's the team going to be? It was supposed to be a strength coming into the season. Eventually, Incineroar gets put in doubles because, at least this guy has some kill power, right? Like, he can run up and he could just, I don't know, he can clothesline some people, just land some up smashes, kill him, way too early on a platform. That move's crazy. And we all know what happened after that, right? It was a legendarily bad performance. And then, it was found immediately after that it was perhaps a little too bad, as Incineroar was caught working with the local sports books, and we can't have tampering on the team, right? We can't have tampering on the team, so sometimes when you have that kind of clubhouse toxicity, you just gotta cut them loose. You just gotta cut them loose. Now, in this situation, is a little bit different because we're just talking about two teammates that maybe may have personal problems with each other. That's something where whoever is the clubhouse leader has just got to step up and say, hey, let's cut this shit out. Let's cut this shit out and let's work as one and be a team. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get places. Your clutch factor is not going to be there. You're not going to have any kind of clutch gene if your team isn't a team and they're not working together. In the short term, I would say certainly don't team them up again. Unless you think there's reason to believe that they can reconcile their differences over the course of a week. But if you think this is something huge, separate them and, how about let's grow up and be adults, yeah? I'd say that's your answer there. Good question, Giraffe. And our final question, this one's from Wave. He asked, what is the baseball equivalent to the Crom kill at 0? I thought probably way too much about this question because there's a lot of ways that you can interpret it. I think what I settled on is I think the equivalent to that Crom kill at 0, what he's referring to, of course, is getting a counter on a charge smash attack in the middle of the stage and killing at 0. During that Chuck Mudd versus Mike set on the main card. I think it's got to be hitting a home run on the first pitch of the game, really. And the reason for the answer is pretty simple. If you're the pitcher and you're in that spot, the game is just starting. You're just thinking, let's just get a clean first inning, and then let's let the boys get me some runs in the bottom half. First pitch you throw, you give up a home run. First of all, that guy has your number, right? He doesn't even need to look at your shit. First pitch he sees, that shit is going yaba, right? I mean, morale is absolutely in the dumpster. It's damn, man. I'm really that shit, First pitch, ridiculous. And then on the other end, the vibes are as high as it could possibly get. The stadium is already erupting. Actually, that's not true because if it's the first pitch of the game, it's the away team. So you're shutting up the crowd, rather, instead. Shutting up the crowd. They're totally out of it. As the away team, that's a great feeling. Get them out of the game early. It's just as big of a, instant momentum swing is kind of how I interpreted that question. What is the, most instant momentum swing? Requires no setup, really. just something outlandish that everyone's like, what the fuck? And I guess that was my answer there. Thank you all for the questions again, everyone. And that is going to be it for the 5-0 podcast. Thank you all again for tuning in. This is a great week 1, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season, man. This is exciting. Let's go! Have a good one, everyone.